Okay, let me point out that the Madison Metro system is just incredibly dear to my heart. I led the fight as a member of the council for the city to acquire the bus company over the serious protestations of Mayor Bill Dyke. As mayor in the 1970s, I saw the major commitment of capital investment in the system and record ridership levels. Unfortunately, during the period I left office, they declined, but they did start up again when I returned in 1989 through the late 90s. And I'm very proud to be mayor today when in last year we set new ridership levels, finally exceeding the ones when I left office in 1979. Like many of you, I'm frustrated that we cannot get rail in Madison, Wisconsin. But given that we don't have the density, we don't have the capital resources, here is what we've been doing in our plan. I don't know about this BRT Light. We are going for bus rapid transit, something that emulates rail. It's going to have stations and platforms. You'll enter the buses. You will not be paying fares because hopefully you've honestly paid for it before you enter, though occasionally there'll be random checks to make sure that the patrons have paid. But also, one of the things that's critical to making it work is to get the vehicles from the edge of the city into the downtown as rapidly as possible. And that means it can't stop at every block. And so we're looking at alternatives where the buses will stop every other block. It does mean some people have to walk one more block to get to a stop, but it will tremendously increase the efficiency, tremendously increase the capacity, and as they've done in Cleveland and in Eugene, Oregon, with great success, demonstrate the expanse of the system into neighboring communities, significantly reducing the demands placed on the community for the automobile, which is passing through. I want to also mention that just this past month, I had a meeting with Robin Voss. As you all know, Robin Voss is the Assembly Speaker, has made it very clear in the past how adamantly opposed he is to to any kind of regional transit authority. I went into the meeting with him. It was very cordial. One person who attended the meeting came out with me and said, "You're probably the first person to ever discuss the regional transit authority with him who didn't get his head chewed off." Just call me Mr. Congeniality. But I explained to him the economics and the environmental benefits. I explained to him that I was willing to take the responsibility of making the argument for a half-a-cent sales tax to pay for it. And I agreed with him that one of the flaws in the previous reiteration of regional transit was something that he and I had in common, which is elected officials have to sit on the board. If there is going to be tax money raised, and if there is going to be tax money spent, there has to be people who are accountable to the public. It can't be individuals, as well-meaning as they may be, as private citizens. Thank you.
So my wife and I are both a one-car family. Actually, that's only since this campaign I've been stuck with 2 cars now, as I'm trying to get around through the entire city. And the reality is, when you're actually using other modes of transportation, when you're actually someone who uses the bus, who uses our bike paths, that you rely on those forms of transportation to get around the city, you see exactly the imperfections of our system. A lot of it has to do with timing. And this is the struggle of, as we remove bus stops and to still try to ensure that there's predictability in the system, we're going to have a struggle as we pick up bus stops. But the true matter is, there are so many areas of efficiency that we could still see within the system. We look at what a real-time kiosk does to riding the bus. Where one thing that's the hardest part about riding the bus is the fear that you may have missed the bus. And that's something that I still, if there isn't a real-time bus terminal, I don't ride that bus line because of that fear. There are so many areas that other metropolitan areas have done with making it easier to pay fares, easier to onboard and offboard. But the reality is that the metro system is still the main mode of transportation for many individuals. So it is correct. It's figuring out how to pay for bus rapid transit. If we can see progress in a half-cent sales tax, that's great. I don't know why we didn't do that 4 years ago. But it's a step in the right direction. The future of Madison, if we're going to see the growth and the density that we want, we're going to have strong multimodal forms of transportation, and metro system is one of those forms.